May 13th, 2025, and you're at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting, and we are glad you are here. We're going to start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we're going to have a moment of silence for Stanislaus Superior Court Judge Sean D. Bessie. Please remain standing at that time for invocation by Mike Gunnarsson, City Ministry Network.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for a beautiful day here in Modesto. Thank you for our county and the opportunity to be here this morning and participate in this form of government. Thank you for your many blessings. I pray that those who live here in our county, who are broken, addicted, and living without hope, those who have lost jobs and are personally struggling with their health, I pray that they would find joy and hope and health and provision and a deep sense of community and fulfillment in their lives. I ask that the broken parts of our community would find restoration. I pray that families would thrive and businesses would prosper, our schools would flourish, that farms would richly produce and neighborhoods would experience peace and healthy relationships. May this truly be a great community to grow up in and to grow old in for every citizen. I pray for these elected officials who are here this morning. I pray that you would bless their families, businesses, friendships, and health. May each of them fully come to know your love for them. Be with them today as they address the issues before them. Give them discernment and wisdom and boldness to serve our county well. I pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you for those words. Next up, we have a presentation. May is Behavioral Health Month, and giving the presentation, Ruben Imperial.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, Council Bowles. I'm here. My name is Ruben Imperial, and I am the Behavioral Health Director for our county. And I am here to make a presentation on the proclamation for May 2025 as Behavioral Health Awareness Month. The focus for our proclamation is to reaffirm the county's commitment to show support for individuals experiencing a mental health or substance use disorder challenge in their life, to reduce stigma, and to let the community know that it's not a bad thing to get help, and despite discrimination or stigma related at times to receiving mental health care, that it's important that reaffirm that it's important for individuals to access treatment. So we're here to encourage help seeking and let the community know how they can get help, and most importantly, share hope that recovery is possible. And that concept is at the root of what our organization and the many partners here you will meet today doing the work of improving mental health does. When it comes to mental health services, when it comes to improving mental health and the work of mental health in our community, both for mental health and substance use disorders, this is not entirely a role just for county behavioral health and recovery services. When it comes to working in the area of providing mental health treatment, substance use disorder treatment, there are many partners involved in this work in our community. The county, of course, does see a very large number of individuals for services, but we have many other partners, and this slide represents not all of our partners, but many of our partners. You see partners, for instance, like our Medi-Cal managed care plans, like Health Plan of San Joaquin, HealthNet, and Kaiser. They all, in addition, just like we do, provide funding for multiple providers in our community to provide behavioral health services. You have organizations listed on our slide today like Golden Valley, Center for Human Services, Sierra Vista, Turning Point, Central Star, Aspirinet, whether they're an FQHC clinic or a community-based organization. They also provide treatment services. So they are a critical partner in this work. And in this work, the types of services are different. The county, of course, does provide mental health services for those with what we call the more severe and disabling conditions. And many of our other partners, like our healthcare clinics and our schools, are also involved in the delivery of what we would call mild to moderate mental health services. So this is just an important time in the year when not only we declare mental health, May is Mental Health Month, but we also educate the board and our community that when it comes to delivery of mental health services, when it comes to the responsibility for behavioral health services, that the county is one of many partners in our community. And we are a crucial partner and we play a crucial role. However, we are one of many partners that are working every day to improve the mental health and behavioral health of our community. And the most important message, in addition to the message that mental health is a community effort, is we want our community to know where they can get help. And one of the areas that Behavioral Health and Recovery Services has improved and expanded services over the last couple of years is our access line. It is known as the Access Crisis and Support Line. It is a 188 number. It is a 24/7 operated number. And this is a number that people in the community that are experiencing distress related to a mental health or a substance use disorder can call and get the help they need. These services have expanded over the last couple of weeks to actually respond to the community and to go out into community settings and see individuals where they are and where they live or where they are experiencing their distress. So that's an important improvement in our system over the last couple of years. These have been state mandates that have been driven at the legislative level within our state. And so this is an improvement from the time we've come in the times past when we've shared this line. We've not been able to share that we're going out in the community and responding to calls. And that is a different level of service that's been enhanced in our organization. And of course, we have the 988 number. This number, if you dial 988 in our county, just as you would call 911 when you're experiencing a mental health crisis, it's an easy number to remember. That number or text goes to our Central Valley Suicide Prevention Hotline. And that hotline, because it's connected to the 988, it's a statewide number meant to mimic the 911 function in the community. But it goes to the Central Valley Suicide Prevention Hotline, and in there, we have a contract with an organization that takes these calls, triages those calls, and will dispatch emergency services or connect them back to our access line if needed. So that's our presentation here today. Just to remind you all that when it comes to mental health, there are many partners that are involved in that. And we also want to encourage people that if you need help, this is the number to call in our county where you can get the help you need. And if we could go back to the previous slides, I am joined here today by representatives from all the organizations that you see here on the slide. So in a few moments, I'm going to ask them now to come on up with me to join me up here at the podium so we could receive the resolution. No resolution today? Well, we opted not to get the resolution today, all right? But we are at least going to take a picture with Supervisor Condit. So if you could come on up, Supervisor Condit.
Actually, I'd like to ask the entire board to come down and take the picture with us.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, they did ask me and wanted the fancy resolution, and I said, well, we usually just put it in the drawer. So let's not do that if we don't have to. So if we could have our partners come on up, and we're going to take a picture. Thank you. Right here. Take a picture now.
Sorry, I've already got the bag.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We're moving on to public comment period. Public comment is a time for those in attendance to speak on items not already on today's agenda. Please state your name for the record, direct all comments towards the dais, and so it is fair for every speaker, keep comments to the 5-minute time limit. I have one card, and Ron, come on up, Ron McCurchery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ron McMurtry here. I have a million things I can go over but today I wanted to go over some comments made by a couple women several weeks ago. I think it was in March, maybe it was February. I'm an educator, and so I like to, I don't know how you guys are going to receive this, but I read up, I go down a lot of rabbit holes, and it's, I know you're a county body, but I think it's wise to be aware of things going on in the rest of the world that you know the general public are not aware of, and so I'm just going to offer my little thing here. One woman was talking about thank you for not completing shutting down during the COVID, and that was a controversial thing. You know, everyone wanted to shut down and harm businesses, and everyone has to be 6 feet apart, and was thanking you for not going so extreme like a lot of other communities did. And at the time, not the time that she spoke, but the time when it came out, I'm usually oblivious to things when they first come, and then I start to hear things, I'm like, oh my gosh. So I do want to confirm that there's a lot of fishy stuff regarding the launch of SARS-CoV-2, as well as the famous mRNA vaccine. I'm not going to go into specifics because I know this is controversial, but there's something real behind this, and so there's some ruffled feathers happening right now. And ironically, that connects to the second woman who spoke, who was talking about her autistic children, and the difficulties of getting the right kind of support. And this controversy is well known. A lot of people with autistic children are claiming that the vaccines are triggering the autism. And of course, the mainstream is saying, no, that's ridiculous. They're safe. And I want to let you know that it's actually something in between. When there's a late onset of autism, the vaccines tend to act more like the straw that broke the camel's back. It's a trigger. It's not the cause of the autism. And there's some excellent research has been done that's showing kind of getting the truth behind what's causing autism. It has to do with some spinal cord injury, but it can be late onset triggered because we already have a weakened individual, then takes a vaccine with a mercury adjuvant or an aluminum adjuvant. Okay, these are toxic metals that they're putting in some of the vaccines. Okay, so that's that connection. The reason those two things were personal to me is because I found myself thrown into working with autistic children, not the extreme cases, the more high functioning, and so I'm learning more and more about that. Just little thing, and if you want, I can in the future when I pick up little things, I can share that with you. I have a scientific background. I'm a math and science tutor, so I know about that. But there's a lot of problem, not only with our government institutions, trust-wise, but in scientific and academic institutions. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on. And I would like our county to have every advantage by knowing kind of what's really what, and to be able to demonstrate a little bit of independence and be smart about how we manage the county instead of having everything come down from on high. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. That's the only card I have for public comment. Does anyone else like to come up and make public comment on items not on the agenda? Perfecto.
Good morning, everyone. I want to acknowledge Jody Hayes, the chair, Buck Condit, and all members of the Board of Supervisors. Of course, you know my name. My name is Perfecto Munoz. I'm director of the West Modesto Community Collaborative, and I've been here. I'm coming here today to give you a short description of our impact report that we created. All of you should have received it. It was distributed to you as a group. And I thought it was important to come before you to show you the kinds of things that we've been doing at the West Modesto Community Collaborative, because for the longest time when I got there, no one seemed to know what they were doing, and I did too. When I asked who we serve, it was like, I don't know, kind of response. But I think that the dedication of the staff, as well as the board of directors, have given us the ability to do what we need to do to turn things around. As you know, our mission is to, West Modesto Community Collaborative is to build partnerships and to address systematic inequities and close gaps in resources and services. And we believe we've done that. We've turned that corner because of the resources that we've been able to bring in through our efforts to working with other kinds of organizations, both internally and externally in terms of foundations. Our mission is to champion equality and transform the system to create a thriving community with a focus on lasting generational change. We're trying to break the cycle of poverty. You hear that all the time. And that's one of the things that we think we've done in order to what we've tried to do over there. This past year, our agency surpassed the number of community members served in the previous year. And the prior year, we served about 13,000 people with a total of 6 staff. 6 staff during that period of time. Let me qualify that. Over a period of time, early in the years, we served about 13,000. And that was when we had about 6 staff. In 2024, we achieved the following with a staff of 14 and with our 23 promotoras, or community health workers as we call them also. We had served 22,637 individuals with outreach and educational services. That's a milestone for us. When you think about the poverty in that area of West Modesto and those 3 zip codes, you'll greatly understand the dynamics when you look at households, you look at the number of people living in this household, and the multiple generations of families living together, more than one family in a house. And in addition to that, we served 7,250 people through our California Workplace Outreach Program. There was an effort to try to educate the workers about their rights, their responsibilities, the employer's responsibilities to ensure that we fair wages and given an opportunity to grow within that industry. So this was something that we achieved, and we did get a lot of responses from industry that said that they welcomed this. They welcomed this information to their employees because it let them know exactly what they can do, because some of this was state and federal law. In addition to that, 2,537 outreach we did reached to health equity, including youth behavioral health and health fairs and tobacco prevention. Since this mental health month, we have a mental health services clinic. Nobody knows too much about it because it's not located in the King Kennedy Memorial Center. It's in a different location, but we served with funding that we get. About 257 families, and that's families, not individuals, but families. And we made a extreme difference because we don't get any county money to do this. This money comes from the money that we generate internally through our direct resources that we have, plus our funding from outside foundations. Because we felt that when we needed to provide the services, this was something we needed to do. We have a licensed clinical social worker on staff, and with a number of interns from Stanislaus State University in a master's program and with social work who are being trained and supervised by her while she works with families and children. So in reality, we served 32,424 individuals, and this is because we had a dedicated staff. We had a dedicated staff of 14 people that came from different communities, but the majority of our staff are from West Modesto. Those that attend at Stanislaus State, UC Berkeley, UC Merced, and Sacramento State. And because we become trusted messengers. If we didn't have that trust in the community, we wouldn't have all these residents come to us. Not only do we see individuals from our area, West Modesto, but we also see other people from other communities that reach our services because the people that live in our area tell their friends. So we have individuals that come from Patterson, Wesley, Riverbank, and Oakdale. We also have people that come from all the different small unincorporated communities who are seeking services to us. So that's been the genesis of who we are. We've been a trusted organization, and our impact is this report here will tell the story. This really tells the story, and I suggest highly that if you haven't looked at it, that you take a look at it. And if you need anything from me or any questions, don't hesitate to let us know. And then one of the other things I would like to point out is that you'll see our partners. They're listed from different foundations, from the wellness to the California Endowment to Sutter Memorial, and others that provide services, funding for us to provide the services in the community. So I'm sorry I went over my 5 minutes, but if you have any questions, feel free to come to the office. We're over there at 601 Martin Luther King Drive. It's less than a mile away, maybe a mile away from here. So it doesn't take too long to get there, and we would be more than glad to show you around, and you can see what we've done over the past 6 years since I've been there. Thank you very much. And one parting statement. Many of you may remember Clea Monroe Bowell, and when she was the county health services agency member here, one of the things she told me before she left, she told me to keep the community first. I kept my promise. And I've always kept the community first. Thank you.
Thank you, Perfecto, for that information. Any others like to make public comment? And seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close public comment, and we're going to move to consent calendar. Before the board takes any action on the consent calendar, does anyone in the audience wish to provide public comment on any matter on the consent calendar? Seeing none, any supervisor like to pull any? All right. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve items on consent.
I have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous. All right, moving on to public hearings. Consider approval of the 2025-2029 Consolidated Plan and the 2025 Annual Action Plan for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development Entitlement Programs and filing of a notice of exemption. Planning and Community Development. Hi.
Good morning, Chair Condit, CEO Hayes, Mr. County Council Bowes. I'm Angela Freitas, the county's planning director. Providing you with today's presentation is Anna Nicholas, our Deputy Director of Community Development Services for the Planning Department, and joining Anna is Daniel Serrano with Lazar Development, the county's consultant that assisted with the development of the Consolidated Plan and the Annual Action Plan.
Good morning. Before you today, you have the Consolidated Plan, which is our 5-year plan covering the fiscal years 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and the first year of that plan, fiscal year 2025. So 25 years ago, we started what was to be the Stanislaus Urban County with the city of Patterson and Oakdale. From that, we've grown to take on 8 of the 9 cities. 7 of the 9 cities, Ceres, Houston, Newman, Oakdale, Patterson, Waterford, and Riverbank, cover what's called the Stanislaus Urban County for community development projects and emergency solutions grants. Now, the Stanislaus Home Consortium, for about 25 years, City of Turlock was the lead up until 2023 when they resigned, and now Stanislaus County has become the lead for the Stanislaus Home Consortium that takes on 8 of the 9 cities. And why did they do this? Well, why do we group together? We group together ideally to get funding from the feds, in this case, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, which typically would fund also the state, and then each city and the county would have to compete yearly. This really wasn't very helpful when we had long-term planning projects and long multi-million-dollar projects to fund. So as a group, we held more ability to get a larger sum of money directly from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. So 5 con plans later, we're here. So I'll pass it on to Dan.
Thank you very much, Deputy Director Stanislaus. Good morning, Chairman Conda and Board of Supervisors. My name is Danny Serrano, and I'm a consultant, as Ms. Stanislaus mentioned, with LaSar Development Consultants. And I'll be providing this presentation for the 2025-2029 consolidated plan, and then we'll be available for any questions. So in terms of the agenda, I'll briefly touch on what consolidated plans are, what they're trying to achieve, the anticipated federal funding sources that the county and other jurisdictions associated with this effort are anticipating to receive in this next 5-year consolidated plan cycle. And then I'll briefly touch on some of the key results from our data analysis, as well as the community engagement. And then we will present the consolidated plan goals and the proposed annual action plan projects and the staff recommendations. So what is a consolidated plan? The consolidated plan is required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, as Anna mentioned, and must be updated every 5 years in order to receive federal funding. And we'll talk about what those federal funds are in a moment. But the consolidated plan serves as the framework planning document for community-wide dialogue to identify the top housing and community development needs for low and moderate income populations, and to set priorities and goals for uses of these funds over the next 5 years that align with HUD federal programs. So the county receives an annual allocation of funds for community development activities from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD, and the funded activities align with consolidated plan goals, and these funds are used to create strong, sustainable, inclusive communities and affordable housing. So the consolidated plan is carried out through the annual action plans, which are prepared annually and provide a summary of the actions and the activities and the specific federal resources that will be used each year to address and implement the priority needs and the specific goals identified in the consolidated plan. And then what's known as a CAPER is the Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, is prepared annually to report on the accomplishments and the progress towards the consolidated plan goals. So in some instances, as we just mentioned, jurisdictions come together in what's known as a consortium or a group of participating jurisdictions to collaborate and prepare a joint consolidated plan in order to pool their resources and efforts to address shared community development strategies. Stanislaus County, in partnership with the cities of Ceres, Houston, Newman, Oakdale, Patterson, Riverbank, and Waterford, formed the Stanislaus Urban County for the purposes of receiving the HUD Community Development Block Grant, or CDBG, and Emergency Solutions Grant Funding, or ESG. Stanislaus County is the lead entity with the responsibility for implementing and administering CDBG and ESG funding. Stanislaus County is also the lead entity with responsibility for implementing and administering HUD home funds for the Stanislaus Home Consortium, which is comprised of all of the Stanislaus Urban County members plus the City of Turlock. So approval of the proposed comp plan and the annual action plan is necessary for the continued compliance with HUD funding. Okay, so during the 5-year consolidated plan period, this group or consortium expects to receive approximately 2.3 annually in CDBG funding for a 5-year total of about 11.5 million. About 200,000 for annually for the ESG funding for a 5-year total of about just over 1 million. And then about 1.2 million annually in home funding for a 5-year total of about 6.3 million. The total fiscal year 2025-2029 estimated CDBG home and ESG allocations are shown in this slide, and you can see the general descriptions and uses for each of the HUD funding programs. So for CDBG, for instance, can be used for anything for public infrastructure, facilities, economic development, that sort of thing, and it's designed to serve low and moderate income persons. And then with home, it's primarily affordable housing, so there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of how it's applied, but again, it's for really earmarked for low-income folks, and then emergency solutions grants really for homelessness services and prevention. And then, so next I'd like to talk about the major steps in preparing this work. The consolidated plan effort was initiated in December of last year, which started with a technical analysis of existing data, which was then further enhanced by a stakeholder survey, as well as a series of stakeholder meetings and community workshops over the last few months. And then the consolidated plan package was circulated for public review in April and May, and following today's meeting, should the board adopt the consolidated plan, the annual action plan, staff's next step would be to submit the consolidated plan to the U.S. Department of HUD. And I'll just say that because of some of the uncertainty at the Federal Department of HUD, I'm sure you've heard of potential staff reductions and layoffs, et cetera, and we're all still waiting for the federal budget, right? It's been recommended to us from our local HUD representatives to submit the consolidated plan sooner rather than later, because the later that you submit, there's potential risk with the more limited staff capacities, I guess you could say, at HUD, that there could be the risk of delay in reviewing these documents by HUD. Community engagement. Okay, so before I touch on some of the key takeaways from the technical analysis and the engagement process, I just want to briefly highlight the community engagement efforts to date. So, as I mentioned, it was a broad outreach. There were agency phone and email consultations, stakeholder interviews, online and in-person community meetings and workshops, as well as a community survey that received about 200 responses since February. So this all reflects a really wide range of input from community members. And then the draft documents were circulated, as I mentioned, via county websites, offices of planning and community development departments of the respective comp plan consortium members, and it was emailed directly to known interested parties by consortium staff. Next slide, please. Okay, so next I'd like to highlight some of the key priorities and the key themes that we received from the community survey. But first, I'd like to say that from a technical data standpoint, there is a significant need to support affordable housing and to address homelessness. And so I just want to quickly touch on that first with a couple of data points. So among all the households in the county, the rate of cost burden, and cost burden is how much it means that you're paying more than 30% of your household income towards housing. So the rate of cost burden is about 80% for those earning about half of the area median income. So this means that about 4 out of every 5 households earning up to about 50% of the area median income are cost burdened. And then the rate of severe cost burden, and severe cost burden means folks that are paying more than 50% of their household income towards housing, is roughly 60% for those earning about half of the area median income. And then the rates of cost burden and severely cost burden, they are significantly higher when comparing to the households that are at, say, 50% to 80% of the area median income and up. And then in terms of homelessness, the latest data is from the 2024 point in time count, which indicates that about 2,052 people are experiencing homelessness. And this number has held steady compared to the previous year and has been close to about 2,000 people every year since 2020. So again, the technical data shows that supporting affordable housing and addressing homelessness are key needs in the community. And these needs and others are reflected in the results of the countywide community survey. So this slide shows the key priorities and the themes from the survey responses. And the first two priorities from the survey relate to, not surprisingly, increasing affordable housing and addressing homelessness. And then the other priorities from the survey relate to supporting domestic abuse victims, elder abuse victims. People noted the need for increased outreach and support services. There was a need for prioritizing community facilities for things like parks and recreation, healthcare, and youth centers. There was also a strong support for the redevelopment or demolition of abandoned properties to revitalize neighborhoods and stimulate community growth. And additionally, job creation and retention assistance along with employment training programs were also rated as highly important. And then another important issue was the need to improve infrastructure, particularly for transportation. And this includes things like safety improvements, especially for pedestrians, such as sidewalks and street lighting, as well as roadway improvements for auto travel. So based on all of this feedback and the data analysis, the proposed consolidated plan includes 5 goals. The first is to support affordable housing and support affordable housing and promote accessible housing options, work to address and prevent and mitigate homelessness, improve public infrastructure and facilities, and then provide and ensure access to essential public services. And then administration just means that there's funding for staff to be able to administer these programs. So during the 5-year consolidated plan period, we kind of talked about what some of the anticipated funding is going to be. So you'll see that in the first column there this is your annual action plan. So this is the implementing tool. So the way it works is you've got the 5 goals from the consolidated plan, and then in your annual action plan you have the same goals, and then you determine based on that year 1 of 5 how you're going to allocate funding by each goal in that one fiscal year. And so that's what this table is showing. So we have about $2.3 million in CDBG funding, about $200,000 for emergency solutions grant, and then about $1.2 million for home funding. And so we're going to, now on the next slide, Deputy Director Stanislaus will present on the proposed projects and what this means.
Okay, for the upcoming fiscal year, due to the uncertainty of HUD, the urban county members have decided to invest their allocation, once we know the official numbers, for their infrastructure projects currently in place, and some will be starting a few new smaller projects. So county will be continuing with the West Modesto Sewer Infrastructure Improvement Project in support of the work in the Rouse, Colorado neighborhood and working towards Beverly Waverly. So in partnership with the Department of Public Works, we will be, again, continuing that work. We'll also be setting aside some funding for housing services, a tenant landlord support program out of our public services allotment, which is approximately 15% of our upcoming allocation. And then again, the urban county cities are dedicating to invest their CDBG funding for infrastructure projects for health and safety issues. We'll also be doing a NOFA, Notice of Funding Availability, for the Emergency Solutions Grants Program. That once we get our final numbers from HUD, we'll be putting out a NOFA for shelters and service providers to help those at risk of homelessness. And also a NOFA for public services to help those in the community, whether it's through a food pantry, it could even be shelter or mental health services or economic development type projects. So we will also be doing a request for proposals for our home funding. So the consortium as a whole has about 2 years funding that we are setting aside on top of what is to come, hopefully July 1st. And we will be launching a request for funding proposals to the community for development projects and for housing rehab services. So approximately $179,000 will be set aside for what they call a Community Housing Development Organization, a CHODA, which is a requirement by HUD. And then about $473,000 of the upcoming allocation will be for the Consortium Affordable Housing Program, which is again purchasing of land, construction of new units, and then we'll set aside another $473,000 approximately for the housing rehab program for the consortium. So all the county, all the cities and the county, minus Modesto. And so one of the recommendations before you today that we're asking is to also consider the recertification process for the Urban County and Home Consortium. So although the con plan is for 5 years, the certification according to HUD is for the next 3 years, 26, 27, and 28. So starting July 1st, July 1st, 2026 to June 30th, 2029. So with your authorization, we will confirm participation from the various cities for both the Urban County and the consortium, and we will be releasing cooperation agreements for them to sign and agree to, and then we will have to submit that to HUD by June 30th of this year for review and approval.
Great. Thank you, Deputy Director Stanislaus. So this summary of public comments, really is very similar to what we heard through the community-wide public survey. I mean, which results in the main general themes were need for affordable housing, need for homelessness support, a lot of the same priorities for around domestic violence and elder abuse victims, and infrastructure improvements that we talked about, and then technical assistance for small businesses. So, this is what we've heard. I think it's been pretty consistent. The data also points us in that direction as well. And now Deputy Director Stanislaus is going to present staff's recommended resolutions for your consideration.
Okay, so the approvals today that we have before you requesting is to file a notice of exemption for CEQA for the document of the con plan and the annual action plan, and also to approve or review for consideration the 25-29 con plan and the 25 annual action plan the first year, and authorizations to authorize staff to proportionally increase or decrease the estimated funding levels that will be identified in the AAP to match the actual final funding allocations, authorize our Director of Planning to sign HUD applications and program certifications, authorize the CEO to sign the CDBG and home allocation agreements for both the Urban County and the Home Consortium, and authorize the CEO to sign the Home Consortium 3-year agreements and Urban County agreement, and authorize the Director of Planning to sign any related HUD agreements, contracts, or documentation needed for implementation of these plans, and authorize staff to incorporate any feedback received from HUD as long as it doesn't change the overall plan, and authorize staff to finally submit to HUD the final documents. So, any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a couple. Thank you very much. And Mr. Serrano, I love the way you say Anna's name. San Nicolas. I'm going to remember that. What's our confidence level that there is money available after 2025 in these programs?
For this year, it is confirmed for the next upcoming fiscal year. What's the unknown is after July 1st, 2026.
Okay.
That budget is still up for consideration.
Okay, that's really good. Because I look at the city projects on CDBG, and there's not a lot of money going to them. Are they allowed to carry money over to complete a project, or are we allowed to trade money like we do in other programs where, so they can complete theirs
Yes
and then
and
we get
yes.
their, we can? It's back and forth.
We can, it would take a agreement,
Yeah.
a cooperation agreement to share, but it can be done.
And then the unlimited, can they carry over unlimited amount of money, or?
They can carry over, but they have a limit of 7 years, and we try and
Okay.
stop that before it gets to that dangerous
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just nice when projects are completed, right? When you're ready into construction. Can the money be used for the planning side also as well as construction?
It can, but it has a certain percentage, so it'd be considered activity delivery. So to be conservative, HUD always puts a minimum of 20% of the overall project budget. So money can be used for engineering, planning, portions of a designated project.
Okay. I'm very proud of what we've done over in the sewer line. I know many years ago that we had determined that that was the highest and best use, and we've been committed to that for probably a decade now, at least. And so some good things are happening on the west side. The last thing on you said there's an expectation of a notice of funding opportunity on the ESG, but we haven't gotten that money or what the amount of money is, right?
Yeah, we've held back because typically we would have our final numbers by now, but without knowing for sure if there's any programmatic changes,
Okay.
we were cautious to wait until the approval of the con plan and the AAP and then the final notice. So hopefully we'll release it in early June. By regulatory requirement, HUD has to give out a letter this week, so we're hoping to see it soon.
Okay. You know, there's a shelter in Turlock that's been struggling, and I know we're all familiar with it, and ESG was one of the opportunities. I know they've been fairly successful in the past in getting some of that money, so the faster a plan comes out, it doesn't guarantee that they'll be chosen, but I know it's a struggling organization at this point. So thank you very much.
Chance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wonderful presentation. Greatly appreciate the information. I do have just a couple questions just for further clarification. So how exactly are the projects and sites selected?
Each project, the cities are independent in being able to select their projects. County staff works with them for the feasibility of it, meaning we help them with the environmental, we help them making sure it's in a HUD-approved designated area for income eligibility. But the cities select their projects based on their community need and feedback and their own prioritization.
How are the sites selected in the county jurisdiction?
That's a different kind of array. We have
Okay.
several studies for prioritization for infrastructure that we've done over the years, and then also it falls into the availability and feasibility of the project area. So if there's an opportunity to, if there's a high need and high ranking on the prioritization list, we use that as well as if there's any leveraging money. So like, for instance, West Modesto, we've been able to leverage money from the State Water Board, which has helped us quite a bit. With just Ross, Colorado, I believe our application and approval is about, and I know it's coming to the board soon, sorry, about 22.8 million, which really helps push our funding further and, yeah, work together.
Okay. And so that would explain that list of projects as to why we didn't see Keys or Empire or Salida represented. Okay. Great. And do we have a strategic plan for infill projects in the county jurisdiction specifically?
Not related to our CDBG plan.
Okay.
Now, if there's an opportunity, we can always come back and do an amendment if we have additional funding or a need.
Sure.
That's allowed for the board to do, but we don't have anything at the moment.
Okay. And maybe, I know the funding is obviously in question past this fiscal year, but maybe that's something we can work on. And, I'm just, using a blind eye and driving around my district, specifically what comes to mind is South Modesto. There are open parcels that could be used for some sort of housing development per se, or even in Empire. I've driven around, just driving around my district, I guess, or even other areas within the county that could be potential for infill specific projects. And obviously we want to focus on that, kind of building up, not out kind of mentality. So I just think it's worth a consideration for, for the future. And I guess kind of building off of that, what would the scope of a project be? I mean, is there a set model for a unit? I mean, is the design pretty flexible? Do we kind of like to focus on more high density projects, or do the cities like to focus on high density? Is tiny homes a possibility for something like this, or do we look at single family homes? Kind of what is the scope or scale of that?
We did a study on what the housing needs for the cities, and what came out most, and it wasn't too specific on terms of the sizes, but it did talk about the need for more, for larger families, for seniors. They also came out a need for more scattered sites, because the availability of a large enough project area wasn't too available, but they were supportive of scattered site projects.
Okay. And would veteran housing be a component as well with the senior? And so, okay, great, yeah. Wonderful. And I guess, so what percentage is Section 8? Is it all Section 8, just from my understanding, or is there a percentage breakdown, or is there a requirement to have a percentage? No.
No.
Okay. And if and when we do put together a strategic plan for, let's say, county infill projects, we would be able to put in a requirement for that percentage of quote-unquote Section 8 or affordable housing.
We can always put in recommendations for projects when we do the request for proposals and a plan as well.
But the determination currently is dependent on the city. So if the city of Ceres would want to put that determination in, that would be of their city council's authority.
Yes, and we would take that into consideration when we do our work out there.
Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you again so much for the presentation. It was very insightful, and anything we can do as a board to help support this, we absolutely will. So thank you again.
Go ahead, Terry.
Okay, thank you guys. Danny, thank you very much. I guess I'm on here, aren't I? There we go. Thank you, and Anna, thank you, and Angela. Just a couple things. One, just a little follow-up on chances. Do we have, with regard to infill county-wise, not, I know within the cities have to have, but county-wise, part of our arena plan, haven't we put together, I was just looking at Angela here, haven't we put together a plan with regard to infill in the county areas as far as housing?
So the county's housing element, the county's general plan and the housing element focuses on infill development. Okay. So that is where we would be focusing on instead of new greenfield development. As we proceed forward with the home NOFA, we will be outreaching to affordable housing developers to kind of look at what the landscape is, where the funding is, and we will most certainly be targeting some infill sites within the unincorporated area that we've already identified.
Perfect, good. I just wanted to just point, because I thought for sure we had identified areas within the county to infill. So only other thing is, what would be great would be, we look at here, we have almost $19 million anticipated funding right here between the CBDG, the home, and the ESG. It would be great if we had, at the same time as we're looking to approve this for the coming year, 5-year plan, would be to have from 20 to 24's plan right here and show here are the actual dollars that were actually approved for that 5-year plan. Here's what we actually accomplished. And I know we get different updates and things like that, but at the same time, it'd be great to see here was the $19 million that we approved last 5 years, plan. Here's what actually was accomplished, what money was spent, here's what's carried over, to Vito's point, here's what's being carried over, still hasn't been completed. Just because all these questions are, we talk about just kind of in the abstract here with, okay, here's what we're approving, here's plans, here's what the city, different things. But let's see what actually happened with that money and be able to identify that as we're approving the next 5 years. And I think that would help with a lot of the questions that we have here, because we just don't see that really, unless do we get this in updates from you guys? I'm trying to think.
We do it every September with our caper, but we can definitely put it into our annual plan.
Yeah, just to see, here was the 5-year period, here's what we approved, here's what we actually accomplished, here's the projects that actually happened, just kind of
Yeah,
see.
we can definitely.
That would be great, just to have it right next to this. So anyway, thank you guys for the presentation.
And I apologize, the strategic plan, it's not really specific to CDBG, so I apologize for that confusion.
All right, Angela, Anna, Daniel, thank you guys for the presentation. A lot of great information. All my questions were answered due to the fact that my colleagues asked great questions. Just on the community outreach and community meetings, was it specific meetings you set up, or did you go to different groups like COA or another community group?
It was a combination of both. Each city had at least 2 to 3 in-person and Zoom meetings for their communities, where we had them discuss their upcoming proposed projects and the funding that was estimated to come in. And then we also participated in stakeholder meetings and existing meetings. We also worked with the different chambers that helped us a lot with the outreach with the surveys. So it was a combination.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any other questions? All right, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. I haven't seen any written comments. Okay. Is anyone like to make public comment on this agenda item? Ron, come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is mostly to educate myself. Some of these things are probably dumb questions, and some maybe you're not prepared to answer right now. I'm a little bit interested in the administration. Supervisor Chance Condit kind of took a little bit of my thunder there because I was wondering how this works regarding jurisdictions. Since we have these municipalities, I was wondering about housing that's technically outside the city limits of, say Oakdale or whatever. And of course, I think everyone would consider Bret Harte, West Ceres, Bystrom, and Empire legitimate HUD targets. So are they organized as far as the same thing Supervisor Condit asked, is that say Ceres gets to make decisions on whether projects are requested for, say, Empire, I don't know, is it area of operations, is this how this is organized? Regarding decisions of what priorities for each municipality. Did you understand my question?
Correct. Each city has can set the priorities for their cities as long as they align with the overall 5-year goals and plan.
Okay, so the municipalities actually make decisions in the nearby unincorporated, the area of operations.
Oh, the unincorporated? That
Well,
would fall.
like Empire, what city makes decisions of whether Empire should get?
That would be county.
Oh, okay, so county's a separate entity are they part of this consortium?
Yes,
Okay,
we're the
okay.
lead.
Okay, so that's what I need to know. Okay,
problem.
thank you. All right. And so I gather this consortium is not the same as a JPA. I don't want a whole course on that, but what's the distinction between an organization like a consortium versus what a JPA is?
The consortium is, again, for the sole purpose of receiving funding from the federal government.
So you're not required to form a JPA because of all these municipalities working together?
No.
Okay, it's just all under the county. Okay, just curious. Okay, nope, you answered all my questions because the supervisors were good at asking questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Anyone else? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing. Hit my computer. All right. And bring it back for a motion or more comments.
So I just want to say that, when we talk about home funds, there's some home funds built up, and as Supervisor Condit, if someone knows of a project that's available, it's hard to find projects, it's hard to get the money out, and it's never cheaper to build than it is today. And if we wait another 3 or 4 or 5 years, I think we get less bang for our buck. So we need to collectively try and utilize money from the old consortium and/or the new consortium.
Yeah, I think we're in a good place. We need to act, but we've also, in some ways, it's been good that we've stockpiled a little bit of money because we have a bigger pot of money to come in. So that is going to be a key focus in the next couple of months, is to get those NOFAs out, to get, coordinating with those affordable housing developers so that we can start targeting that money into the community. And maybe just a little point of clarification, because there's kind of two different questions that have been going on as far as how we program funding. The CDBG funding has a lot of say and input from the cities in identifying the specific infrastructure projects. When it comes to the home funds, the way the consortium's been kind of set up is in the first 6 months when the funding is allocated in, if there's a particular project, so say like the city of Ceres has a particular project that it really wants to fund, they can put forth a project proposal, and that will be considered by the board. Ultimately, it is this board of supervisors who's going to determine where the funding is going to go. But after 6 months, if they don't have specific projects, it's all going to be pooled together into one pot of money that will be operated under the county's NOFA and will come before this board. We will certainly continue to work with the cities, and they are our partners, and they will be in those decision-making opportunities, but the board is the one that's going to make those decisions.
And just on that hypothetical, if there is a county parcel within or in proximity to the city of Ceres, will we be able to aggressively pursue that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, we
good.
will be right there with the cities looking for developers with an interest in developing properties in the unincorporated areas and putting that money to use. At the end of the day, what we want is, if you break it down in all the individual allocations, the money just can't go as far as it can collective and pooled. So we want to be strategic about using it, but yes, we can target it to unincorporated, to cities. It's where we can get the best project.
Great.
Ready for a motion?
Okay, I will make a motion to approve all staff recommendations.
I have a first and a second. Did you get those?
Manny. Manny has
Terry with the
second.
first, Manny with the second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. There are no discussion items. Moving on to correspondence, we're going to acknowledge receipt of the correspondence, refer as recommended on the agenda. Board of Supervisor reports. Chance.
Just a brief report regarding Diablo Grande. Nothing new as far as any specific new updates, just more projections. So we're continuing our conversations in our biweekly meetings with local irrigation districts about a short-term and long-term possibility. We're hoping to schedule a follow-up with Governor Newsom's office in the coming weeks, and we continue our correspondence with Assemblyman Juan Alanis's office, who's been very helpful in conversations with Kern. So again, we continue pushing forward. Again, the deadline is June 30th that community was given as far as a termination date for their water. So again, we're still just trying to find some daybreak here. But again, thank you to all the help and all the staff time that has gone to this, and also to Supervisor Withrow for being a part of those continued meetings.
Thank you, Chance. All right, any others?
Yeah, I just wanted to, last night I went to the Houston City Council meeting, and they were honoring Bob Betancourt, who was a 50-year firefighter, volunteer in the Houston Fire Protection District, which is just completely amazing in and of itself. He told the story that he was 19, his dad was on the fire department and got him involved. Of course, they always are in need of volunteers, but someone who can spend 50 years helping the community like that deserves a bronze statue, and truly amazing. And then I just wanted to say something. Last week we had our board retreat out at Consolidated Fire in Riverbank, and I always find those to be the most amazing thing for us, getting to talk candidly in a very relaxed setting. And I always recommend to the cities and any board to do retreats. I think it's good. We get deep dives into certain departments that we don't normally interact with, and so I always think there's a lot of good that comes out of that, and I appreciate all the board members.
All right. On that notion, I'd just like to thank Consolidated Fire for welcoming us and having us have our workshop there, and for their demonstrations of advanced life support techniques that they use out in the field every day, and some of the equipment that's been able to be purchased through allocation through the county of Prop 172. So I'd like to thank them for that. Moving on, legislative fiscal management report.
Yeah, just a quick report to acknowledge that on Wednesday, the governor's office will be releasing the May revised budget. So we're very tuned in to see what we see from Sacramento. What we do expect to have some deficits acknowledged at the state level, most likely multi-billion-dollar deficits, and the numbers are in speculation right now as to how big some of these numbers are, but we do expect that they're significant enough to have some impacts at the local level as well. In addition, at the federal level, there are several key committee meetings this week that will be working in Congress to tackle the federal budget, and I think you can expect some headlines out of some of those meetings as well. So we're on budget watch at both the state and federal level this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody. All right, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn, and we do have closed session.
Yes, we have 2 closed session items this morning. First is a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, subdivision D1. One case to consider, YB, a minor, through GAL, guardian ad litem, Maria Prado and Maria Prado versus County of Stanislaus et al. That's in the Superior Court of Stanislaus County. Case number is CV 22-004-044. The second item is conference with labor negotiators pursuant to Government Code Section 54957.6. The agency negotiators are Jody Hayes, Ryan Loop, and Jonah Navarro. Labor organizations are listed there in the agenda. And with that, appropriate for public comment.
Any public comment? Seeing none, we'll adjourn to closed session.